Hi, I'm Dorothy Godin, broker through Max Crown Realty here in Sudbury, and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Something that I've noticed in the last year and a half that I didn't see 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and that's just before closing, we get a call from the buyer's lawyer saying, oh my God, there's an open permit. Now, open permits are something that can cause a lot of problem, a lot of money, and a lot of headache before closing. And it's something that you just don't want to hear a week before closing. Buyers and sellers, when they're doing transactions, if you're selling, you're probably buying something else and you need your money from that sale. And as a buyer, you've probably, have all your stuff in storage ready to move into your new house. You have to be out of your house at a certain time. Both buyer and seller are under a lot of pressure. We need this transaction to close so they can all move along. And lo and behold, we're getting calls about open permits. Now, open permits can happen in many ways. You may have taken a permit out to do some kind of renovation, do a sunroom, do a deck, put in a pool, and then you just didn't close it. And to close it, you have to have the city come in and inspect, and then the city will close the permit. And some people just, they kind of forget, or a lot of people think if they don't close the permit, then they won't have a change in their tax assessment. Which is wrong. After a couple of years, I'm not really sure of the time frame, but after a while, even if you don't close that permit and you've built a garage, they are going to assess you with that garage. So if you're thinking you're going to, not have an increase in your taxes because you haven't closed the permit, get some advice on that, because I think that's not how it works. Nonetheless, people will do renovations, take out permits, not close them, and there's no immediate problem there. No one's going to come to the door. It just kind of stays there. The problem becomes when you go to sell, maybe 5-10 years later, and the buyer's lawyer calls and says, oh, you have an open permit because you built a sunroom and you didn't close that permit. And if it is 5 and 10 years later, now you as a seller are responsible to close that permit. And codes may have changed. You may have to rip out walls so the inspector can see what they need to see. So it becomes a huge headache. And as a buyer, you can assume that open permit, but that comes with its risk also. And you have to, keep your eyes wide open about what are the risks if I accept a house that has an open permit. What I'm finding also is some contractors, so you may hire a professional to do certain renovations, and the subcontractor has taken out the permit and they didn't close. A few years ago, we had a lot of ice damming and a lot of work was done through subcontractors, and permits were taken out but not closed. And sometimes it's just that the subcontractor forgot. So the other issue I'm seeing is in new builds, in new construction and subdivisions, builders are not closing the final permit until all the grading is done. And what I'm finding is years go by and the house may have been sold a couple of times and the builder has still not closed that permit. And ultimately, when the seller goes to sell, push come to shove, the seller is responsible for closing that permit, and it could cost a lot of money. And some, that builder may be even out of business. So, good luck trying to get that builder to come back and close that permit. So I think what I want people to know is when you're going to sell your house, if you have an open permit and you have an open permit, you need to disclose that for sure, and you need to close that permit. Do what you have to do. Disclose to the buyer that, I have this open permit. Here's what has to be done. If the buyer wants to accept that, that's fine. That buyer's going to have their conversation with their lawyer and their realtor about that risk. But I want to stop seeing problems in the last minute about open permits. So if you are a seller and you've done some work and you got a permit and you didn't close it, go ahead and close it. If you don't know, if you have a sunroom and it was built, by the previous owner and you had title insurance, your lawyer would not have done that search to see if a permit was taken out. But if you're in the process of thinking about selling, you should go ahead as a seller and call the city and get a permit search done and find out if the permit was taken out and if title insurance covers that problem. If it wasn't taken out, if it wasn't closed, title insurance may cover that. My whole point is, as a seller, you need to find out about your house. You need to find out about the permits. We don't want this to be a last minute problem, as I'm seeing lately. So that's my little speech about permits. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me, Dorothy Godin at remax.net or 705-561-2360. For those of you who celebrate Easter, I hope you have a blessed weekend. Take care.